Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Amanda from hookemcreations, and I am excited that you're here today. Continuing from our talk from last week about circular knitting needles, we're now moving on to double pointed knitting needles today, and how they work and what projects can you use them for, etc., things like that. And it's going to be pretty cut and dry today on what they do and how they work and such. Because it's basically taking the circular knitting needles and condensing it a little bit more. So with double pointed needles, they are as example, there's 2 points on the needle. So you work either end, and they come in various lengths. So this one here is a 10-inch. And this one here is a 6 or 7-inch knitting needle. So if you remember the hat that I shared with you last week, I took the hat off of circular knitting needles and moved them onto double pointed needles. And it looks something like this. So again, I'm working in the round, doing the decreases, and as they get smaller and smaller, so do your needles get with the stitches. And of course, you've also seen me do knitting tutorials with double pointed needles, because I find them easier to use than my actual straight needles, because like if you look at them, like they're just long, they're much longer for one. I like to have smaller needles in my hands, and the ends just clunk on my desk, and I feel like I'm gonna whack somebody in the face with knitting needles. I have 2 kids. They're both little, and they're always surrounding my workspace, and every time I'm knitting, I feel like if I work with straight needles, I'm just gonna whack them in the face with them, which I've done that a few times already. I'm not gonna lie. So let me show you real quick on how you can work with double pointed needles in the round, because I've shown you how you can do double pointed needles on a panel through my tutorials, but they work just like the straight needles, so I'm not going to worry about that. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you how to work them in the round. So let's get to it. All right, so I am on a decrease round, I believe. Yes, I am. So I'm on a decrease round. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to just push my stitches up to the edge of one needle here. And I have my needle here for my next needle that I'm going to transfer these stitches that I have in my left hand and move them onto another needle. So all I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead, and I'm working in a stockinette stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit like I would as if I had only 2 needles. I forgot to mention earlier that with double pointed needles, they usually come in a set of 4, sometimes 5 needles. It just all depends on the sets and the companies that make them. They come in aluminum or bamboo. I have both sets, and I also have plastic too. And this is a decrease. So I'm going to decrease here and slip my marker and just kind of keep knitting. One of the things that people don't like about double pointed needles is, one, they are sharp, especially if you have the metal ones like I do. They can poke you and jab you in the hand because they get a little clunky. That is true. People talk about how clunky they are and how annoying they can be because they are just in the way when knitting. for a lot of people, but I don't mind it as much as others do. And I'm going to decrease here. Oop. There we go. And there's my decrease. There you go. So, and also you just be careful with stitches. Try and keep all the stitches in the center as much as possible, unless you are working with them. Then you can slide them up on the needle there. But that's pretty much it, mostly on working with double pointed needles. They do poke you in the hands quite a bit unless you know how to work around it. Casting on with them is another thing entirely. Let me grab a couple new needles and some new yarn real quick. So let's go ahead and just do some quick casting on to show you how to do that. With casting on with double pointed needles, let's just do this really nice and quick. There we go. So I do long tail because it's easier for me, and that's my preferred method when casting on. So you just cast on however many stitches, depending on how many needles you have. So if you have 3 needles, you want to take the number of cast on stitches that you need to make and divide it by 3. So depending on the number of needles that you have, you will want to divide it by that number, with 1 extra to use as your working needle. All right, so I got enough. Let's do a couple more quickly. There we go. So there's some stitches there. From there, you're going to take your second needle and you are going to cast on like you would as if you were using the first needle. I always like to hold both needles in my hand, so let me show you how to do that again. So I take the first needle that I had in my hand, take the second needle and put it right next to it. So it's kind of like an extension off of it. And I just cast on like so and tighten it. And then I just keep casting on. Like so, and then you can just see from there how it's done. And you just keep casting on, and then you'll do it on a third one, and then from there you can just connect the stitches, and it's really nice and easy to just slide the needles back and forth. So that's why I like double pointed needles, because in my mind they're a little bit more easier to maneuver with than with circular knitting needles, because the circular knitting needles, the cables can get all coiled up and kind of just get in the way, in my opinion. But I mean, to each their own. It is your own choice and your own preference if you want to do magic loop or not. But that's basically it as far as double pointed needles go. It's really just user's choice, knitter's choice when it comes to double pointed needles or doing the magic circle that I showed you last week. So yeah, that's basically it. Pretty cut and dry. But if you like my videos and you want to keep seeing more, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Get notified of when my next video comes out. I do have a video that comes out every single Thursday, but just in case you forget, go ahead and ring that bell and get notified of when my next video comes out. I also have a Ko-fi in the description down below. It can help me pay for the services that I'm using to make these videos, as far as like Canva and storage space, etc. All the cameras, everything. It just helps me pay for those costs, as well as like material costs that I'm using to make these videos to demonstrate how to do the knitting and crocheting. So, but until next time, happy crafting and good luck, have fun.